When people generally think about the Sims series, things like SimCity come to mind and of course The Sims, but there were a lot of other Sims games made way before them, well, way before The Sims. There was Sim Life, Sim Earth, Simcopters, Sim Ants, well, there were a lot of Sims, and one of them was SimTower. Now, this game wasn't actually made by Maxis itself, it wasn't designed by the people that made SimCity, it was made actually in Japan by a man named Yuta Saito, and it was then published by Maxis under the name SimTower The Vertical Empire. So technically, it's not part of the Sims meta series, but it is, in spirit, a very similar game. The reason I've made this show now about SimTower is because Project High Rise was just released, which is a sort of spiritual successor. Now, I can't actually attest to how well this game does compared to the original because I haven't played it, and generally only an asshole will tell you his opinion about the game before he's even played it. You have to get hired by GameSpot before you can do that anyway. So, SimTower. It is exactly what the title says, a simulator of a tower, a skyscraper that you build from nothing, well, from a couple of $1 million that will stretch all the way up to level 100. You have to make 100 vertical levels above the surface. You can make several levels beneath the surface and you can make it about as wide as it can fit on the map. And you may actually have to do that. On the surface, and especially if you look what's on the background, you'll probably think to yourself that there's nothing to this game. I mean, I'm just seeing things move around very fast and sometimes some buildings pop up. Is this a mobile game? Is this one of those games where you just place one building once every couple of hours when the game lets you, or sooner if you pay, for the time removal thing? It's not that kind of game. It's the kind of game that those games aspire to be but have no idea how to be. SimTower, were it ported as it is now to mobile, would be a killer app. It would be a murder app. It would be an oh my god, every other game just got killed brutally. Oh my, no, don't. Not the chainsaw. No, not the face. Oh, come on. It's dead already. Stop it. It's already dead. It would be that kind of game because it has two things that mobile games and games of this nature that have come around recently lack. It has a difficulty level, as in you don't set it, it just has a difficulty level, it has a challenge to it. It has mechanics that are put there to challenge you, to give you problems that you have to solve. Yeah, I know, it's a novel idea for games. Well, mobile games anyway. And it also has a point to it, a goal. This isn't a game that you will play forever in the same session because there is an endpoint. I mean, besides you building something completely hideous that drives you into bankruptcy, you have to get a tower that is 100 stories tall and at the top of it has a cathedral, one which you can only unlock when you make something that's that big and has 5 stars rating. You get those ratings by just building a tower that is very well populated. You need about 300 to get to level 2, well, 2 stars. You need almost 1,000 or 900 to get to 3 stars, and then there's progressively, exponentially more people needed to get to higher levels. You also have VIPs that you need to please later on. It's a very complex game. It starts out simple, it starts out so incredibly simple. You build a lobby. That lobby is your foundation. From there, you build on top of it or beneath it some small buildings, like you can build a fast food joint. You can build it on top of the lobby, or you can build it in the underground on a sub-level. Sure, you can build it on floor 50, but because people will generally not go to floor 50 to have a bite, it's better to keep them on the ground. After that, you can build some office space, which companies will rent. You can set whatever rent you want, though generally if it's too expensive, people may not come. And if you don't have the right conditions, like if you put a fast food joint next to an office, the people at the office won't be able to work that well because the fast food place tends to be noisy. And besides that, you also have condos, apartments that you can build for people to live in, and they don't get along with the fast food people or with the office people, so you have to put them on their own floor. And to get between floors, you have two options. At first, you can use ladders. Well, not stairs, pardon, stairs. Ladders would be a bit extreme. You have escalators later on too, but those can only get you so far because, people will not just try and walk 50 stories on stairs. They'll die by the time they reach the ground if they haven't died already when they went up. So to prevent that tragic fate, you have escalators. One which you can, to a certain point, plan and program and design. The thing that strikes me a bit odd is that you can fit in one single shaft, you can fit 8 escalators, and they can cross each other. Like, they're not occupying the exact same shaft, they're occupying a space in the axis you don't have access to when building things in your building. Well, actually you do have access to it because you can actually build that elevator shaft even over things you've already made. So you can put it basically in front or behind. But the basic idea is that you can cram 8 elevators into a single shaft to alleviate the congestion of traffic, because when people get stuck at an elevator, they tend to be a bit upset. I should know I got stuck at an elevator and a gurney while I was paralyzed and in very much pain, but those are just horrible details. And you can also program them to tell them exactly to what floors they can go to, what floors they should skip, and you can set them to do a lot of other things, like what do you want them to do during different times of day. You know that the people at the office are gonna rush in the morning and then rush out at night. So you're gonna program them to focus on that, to focus on going from the office to the lobby non-stop during the rush hours. You can even tell them to do something different in the weekends, because in the weekends, no one's gonna be at the office. Everybody's gonna be at the mall, at the fast food joint, at the party zone, at the nightclubs, at the cinema, which you can build later on. And to sustain that building, that growth, you will need to generate profit from all those buildings. You get rent from the offices, I believe you can actually sell directly the condos, or you just rent them. I forget which one it is. You get direct sales from your concessions, like your fast food, your nightclubs, your cinemas, and you can even make hotels. You'll have hotel rooms that need to be cleaned, so you have to hire a staff. Well, no, you just build the building for the staff that will have a maintenance fee, and that staff will need their own service elevator to actually do their job, which you'll have to put in its own separate shaft. But it's okay, because one elevator getting to one floor is enough. You don't need 100 elevators to get from one side of a floor to another. Well, maybe you do if you make a floor that's as long as the screen, but I haven't done that yet, so I'm not sure if you would need more than one to spread across the screen. And as you progress, you will end up needing more and more utilities for the people in your building. You're gonna need a recycling center to stop it being basically a generator of mounds of garbage. You're gonna need underground parking and escalators for the parking, because, well, office workers want to drive, they want to park somewhere safe. And that parking system with the elevator costs you so much money you will not believe. You'll also need to make sure that people are safe in your building, so you're gonna need security, you're gonna need the hospital, because if you don't have those things may catch on fire. Or this game was made in Japan in '94, so the idea that someone would try to bomb your tower wasn't as much of a delicate subject as it is now, so you could add it in games and not get some insane rating that this is just for adults because it has bombings in it. It did have random events that could occur from time to time, like, well, mostly besides the bombings and the fires, you would get the occasional treasure you would find by digging down. So there really wasn't that much of an incentive to not just dig down and uncover everything from the get-go, because you would probably make back the money you would spend by digging down with the treasure you would find. Oh, and by the way, when you unlock all this new stuff, you know, like the parking lot, the nightclubs, the hospitals, you're gonna realize that the tower you've made up until now, even though it was functional, it was profitable, is gonna have to be completely redesigned to fit all these new toys you have. And that's gonna continue, well, up until the 5th star rating, after which you're gonna try and shoot for the ending, so that would be the final design. So it's not infinite in its escalation of complexity, which is a good thing. It's fixed, and it's fixed in a good way, because you know what to expect after you played it a couple of times or if you've read the help file. It's one of those games that's relaxing and challenging at the same time. I would say it's even more challenging than the Settlers is, because the odds of just building something that fundamentally doesn't actually work in the long term is, well, no, actually, I would say it's about at the same level as making roads that aren't functional in the Settlers, only roads are a lot easier to redesign than the entire building, because you've already invested some cost into making it how it is. So yeah, it would be harder than the Settlers, but it has kind of the same sense of satisfaction. And it is all based on placing buildings and just watching things. Little things that scurry around, and if they turn red, it means that you should have placed those elevators better or programmed them to do better jobs. It's the kind of casual games that casual games should aspire to be, something that actually not just makes you want to play them because you have to unlock the next thing, the next level, you have to ding something, you have to collect something, you have to fill a checklist. It makes you want to play it because it's good, it's challenging, it gives you goals to aspire to. Now, I'm not gonna say that you should try and play it right now, because you're gonna need to play it in DOSBox by emulating Windows 3.1. So if you're wondering what the background with the fern is, that's Windows 3.1. I put that there because I really miss that background from Windows. It's one of the most beautiful backgrounds I ever saw. But if you want to play it, you probably can do so, because currently it seems to be a bit abandonware. I know it's an Electronic Arts game, and the Electronic Arts doesn't do abandonware that well, but technically it wouldn't be an Electronic Arts game because it was made by a completely different company than EA, and it probably retains some of, I believe it may have retained some of the rights to it, though the sim name would be part of EA now. So from a legal standpoint, I have no idea what the status is, but Abandonia said it was abandonware, and they generally tend to publish mostly abandonware games. For example, you can't get from Abandonia SimCity 2000 because that's still on sale. SimTower also had an official sequel called U-Tower, named after the original developer, which I have not played, but it seems to have very favorable ratings. It has the same basic gameplay, but it does expand upon it a lot. Actually, it has plugins that let you add new content. And it also has multiple locations, not just one. So if you're interested in a game that, well, would work incredibly well on a tablet, but I don't think there's a port for it, an official one at least. There wouldn't be, it was made in '94. Then you should try to play SimTower. It's a better game than you might believe, especially when compared to, well, modern games of this type. Ones that just do not understand what it was about. Thank you for watching this show. If you enjoyed it, please consider watching some of our other videos and maybe sharing them or giving a thumbs up if you feel like it. And if you really liked what you saw, please check out our Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you could help us make much better shows and get some rewards in the process. Or you could consider buying my book called Tale of Doom. Volume 1 is out now and available for just $2. And as always, if you thought it was horrible, you know where to find me and complain about it.